Hello, Joseph Mclain. Welcome once again to Pastor del Camino. For us to have a little chat about the Camino Santiago, and it's really a pleasure to have you here, talking about something so special in our lives, such as the Camino. So for starting, can you explain to us how did you find about the Camino and how did you decided to walk for the first time?
Hmm. Well, I saw the famous film, of course, at some time, and then I began reading about it, and I really thought, I want to do this. and so I looked for friends who could join me, and I found, several. I said, oh, yes, I would be interested. And then when I said, so let's plan a date, they said, oh, well, maybe, not now. So I realized if I want to do this, then I have to go on alone because it's too difficult. These people are not serious. And so I was sitting one Sunday in our house in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. And I told my partner, David, I said, I think I have to do this alone. What do you think? And he said, well, why don't you go buy a plane ticket now? I said, are you kidding? Are you sure? He said, yeah, do it. And so on that Sunday, I bought a plane ticket to Paris and then on to Biarritz and Bayonne and so on. The usual trip from the state, from the Americas. And that's how that started. And I became very uh, fascinated, maybe even obsessed by the Camino. And by the time I left, I had read, I don't know, I think like 14 books and so on. And so that's the way it started.
So after after you read so many books about it, and then you travel, you arrive in San Jan, you start to walk. What was like the first big impression that you have while walking?
Well, I think the first thing was I stayed at the wonderful albergue of Beilari in Saint Jean, which was going to be something that would reappear in my life in years after that. So this was actually this time of the year. I left on September the 17th of 2017. Okay. And in Beilari, the owner of Beilari, Joseph, asked me, so can you put in a short sentence the reason you're walking the Camino? And I realized I didn't really know. And so I said, I think I'm walking the Camino to find that out, to find out why I need to do this. So that was an important realization that I don't know. I need to do this. I don't know the reason. And here I go. Well, the first day, of course, you're crossing the Pyrenees, and that is quite a climb. The very first day, quite a climb. And I think maybe one of the things I was learning, and that I continued learning along the way, was dealing with myself. I'm a horribly competitive person. And so I like walking faster than anyone, stuff like that, right? And I found that I could not walk faster than everyone. I hated it if someone I would hear their sticks, their trekking poles coming up behind me and going, oh, but I can't. This is a very steep climb. I cannot do this faster. Of course, I was 74 then. So, but so I learned I learned about letting myself be who I am and not needing to win all of the time. So that was the first thing, and of course the trip up the Pyrenees is beyond beautiful. The weather the first day, I stayed at halfway up.
You
What
know
is the
the
name of?
Horizon.
Yeah, the Horizon, which I was very glad that I did. Very glad. It was a very nice experience, and it was a good break. And it was beautiful. The next day, it rained almost all day, rained and blew. It was very cold, very rainy, heavy winds. But I made it, and I saw Roncesvalles, the huge monastery, within 500 meters of me. I was down off the mountain by then. And I thought, wow, I made it. And I was in a meadow walking towards the monastery, and the grass was deep grass, was very wet. And all of a sudden, my feet were in the air. So I had slipped. It was very slippery, the grass. And suddenly my feet were, I remember thinking, my feet are above my head, pow, landing in the mud. So all of my wonderful new clothes, hiking things that I had bought for the Camino, were smeared totally with mud. My backpack, which probably saved my life, my backpack was also smeared with mud, and I struggled. A young woman rushed over to me and said, "Oh, Senora, estás bien?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, yes, I'm fine. I get up and I go like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can walk. And I hobbled to Roncesvalles and sat at the bench there at registration and tried to sort of come back to myself and so on. So by that time, I knew that I was really up against something that would test everything in me. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Mm.
So Joseph, one of the things that makes the Camino so special is, of course, the pilgrims that we met, the owners of the albergue, the hospitaleros, and I am fortunately because I met so many great people while walking the Camino, and at this conversation, I'm going to talk about two of them. Is a couple. They're in a place right almost in Santiago, something nearby O Pedroso, and they have this awesome, awesome albergue just outside of the Camino because it's not exactly on the Camino. We have to get a detour, a deviation, fly
Mhm.
from 900 meters after Santa Elena before O Pedroso. But these two, they are just outstanding people, and they receive the pilgrim as I don't know. It's amazing, and I stayed there 2 years ago, um, and I stayed there again also this year. Um, and when they saw me this year, I don't know, they were so happy. I am so happy. I was so happy. Uh, they offer me beer. They offer me food. I don't know. It was so special. And I can't remember their name right now, but the name of the place is Albergue Rural Astral,
Mm.
and and not just as the albergue, the persons, all the surroundings. I don't know. I guess everything is perfect. You know, and I don't know if it's because it's away from the Camino,
Mm,
and you have Santa Irene, you have Pedrosa. Then in summer, when I am able to walk, you know, they're crowded, there are pilgrims everywhere, and sometimes you don't know what to do. And because this is like away from the Camino,
mhm.
uh, even on summer, there are few pilgrims. We were six in August, on the 17th of August, six pilgrims in one albergue, 21 or 22 kilometers from Santiago. That's nothing. Um, and I don't know, that place and that people are really really special to me. So where were the people, the pilgrims or the hospitaleros that really stick out to you the most?
Mm. Well, the first one I would have to mention was actually in Saint Jean, in Beilari, is the name of the albergue, and Joseph, who is the hospitalero there. I felt a very special connection with that place, although I was there less than 24 hours, But as it turned out, I came back and I volunteered at Beilari for 2 years, and did much more with Beilari. I organized their Facebook page. Right now I manage the Facebook page, which has been a really wonderful experience, actually. And then I offered before COVID to establish a volunteer group of pilgrims who would be willing to go to Beilari and volunteer,
That's
because
amazing.
it's very hard work. And so in the months before COVID, I had 50 volunteers lined up with dates, everything dates assigned. And then suddenly COVID hit and we had to cancel all of that. So that was a very special place, and a place that I love, and people that I love.
That's amazing.
Um, but also, I would say the experience at San Nicolas, the little 12th century convent that's out in the country. It's close to well, it's run by the Italian volunteers from Perugia. Okay. And they actually do a foot washing ceremony for pilgrims. And that was unforgettable. and then a dinner that they cook. There's no electricity in that building, so everything was by candlelight, and it was really totally amazing, and so on. And there were places. There were also places that were not good,
Yeah.
which is what really made me think about, what do pilgrims need when they arrive at an albergue? Well, you need someone who says, "Come in, please. Oh, have a seat. Oh, you look tired. Have you had a big day? Would you like a cup of tea?" Rather than, "Okay, go over there, find somebody to sleep over there." And you do find that. We all know that. And I thought, well, if I can become a hospitalero, I will do things differently. I will welcome them. I will make this a special moment. And so I think that's very important. And those moments with albergues do exist. Also, out of Zalbadica the little you climb up a little path just off the Camino, and it's a very old church manned by not Dutch. I think they're English hospitaleros. And yeah, that was also a very special evening. I loved it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
And about the places, you know, on the Camino we have so beautiful, so many beautiful places. Um, Other that are big, other that are small, but even if they are like places that for one doesn't stick out nothing, but for you they are really special. So, what were the places that that kind of you were special for you while
You
walking?
mean albergues?
Albergues, sightseeing, monuments, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I loved arriving at Roncesvalles. It's an astounding place. And I've been back there since, you know, and realized what a tremendously historic place it is too. But arriving at that big convent, and it's so beautifully done. It's so well run by Dutch hospitaleros. I was very impressed. And the evening pilgrims mass in the little church there is really, really very special. And no matter what your religious beliefs are, you
Yeah.
should attend mass. Um, uh, I loved being in the city of Leon. I'm sorry, I'm French. I'm pronouncing it in French.
Yeah.
Uh, Leon. I loved that city, and that's the first rest day I took. So I had time to walk around and get to know it, and so on. Burgos, I loved. There are so many places. I loved the night I spent. I'm going to start forgetting names now as soon as it's necessary for me to remember them. But coming into Galicia, on top of the mountain, what is the name of that?
Sobreiro.
Oceberero, yeah.
Yeah.
So I arrived up there. I was very concerned about the climb. And but by that time I was getting into such good shape. I arrived in Oceberero. I thought, there's not supposed to be a village here. Well, what is the name of this? Oh, Oceberero, I'm here. I made it. And then that night it became very stormy. And it was like ice. It was like ice and wind. And it was a very wonderful, mysterious place to be in that night, that stormy night. And I actually really loved being there and going on from there. The other place that I loved was names. This is actually slightly off the Camino. You can take it after Ocebrero to the huge monastery just
Samos.
What? Yes,
Samos.
Samos. You're pronouncing it in Portuguese. Or maybe that's the way you pronounce it in Galicia, which
In Galicia
is
it's the same, it's Samos. Samos, yeah.
Samos. I love that. I thought that was just, and the walk there was stupendous. Although I had come from Ocebrero that day, and that's kind of a long stretch. It's kind of a long walk, but that was great. So many places.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Did you ever think that if your Camino could have one expression, what expression that could be?
The expression?
Yeah, one word, one expression.
Hmm. Uh, discovery.
That's amazing. That's beautiful.
I think
That's
discovery. Yeah. Discovery of places and things and people that you've never experienced, but also discovery of oneself, inner discovery. Mhm.
definitely,
So both things. Yeah.
definitely. What were the best moments while walking the Camino?
Oh,
I had to ask. I had to ask.
I don't know if I can. There is, of course, the moment of arriving in Santiago, which is a little strange,
Yeah,
because after walking for all of those days and going through what one goes through, you arrive and I arrived walking in from the bottom of the city. I noticed that there was a group of men, maybe 10, who had Mexican flags on their backpacks. And so I asked them if they are from Mexico, and they said, yes, they were. I said, I live in Mexico too. And they said, oh, where? I said, San Miguel de Allende. And they said, oh, we live in Querétaro, which is the next town to where I lived. And I said, Querétaro, somos vecinos. And and they walked in to the city singing some version of the Ave Maria that I don't know. I've never heard. So not Bach, Gounod, not Schubert, but something else. At the top of their voices, they were really good singers. The narrow stone streets were bouncing with the sound, um, uh, riveting off one wall onto the next. It was very exciting, and I followed them. I followed them. And then as you get to the tunnel going down into the main plaza in front of the cathedral, their singing was going on. The bagpipes were playing. It was like, wow, a climax of a great symphony. And then I was in the plaza by myself, and I had a feeling of some letdown of like, now what? Okay, here I am. Okay, well, I'm not like falling on my knees. I'm just here. So I was a little disappointed in that moment, but I quickly took my backpack to the hotel where I was staying in order to get to the Pilgrims Mass on time. And I did. And I'm standing, the cathedral is full. There is, so I stood and I ended up standing exactly under the organ, right?
yeah.
And I'm sort of like, okay, this is good. I like it. And then the
Yeah.
fumiero that day they started to swing it, and the organ starts playing, which is just above my head. And then I had no defenses. All of my emotions broke loose. And I stood there and I just wept. And I could have fallen down. But
I
I'm
can
sure
really
I
relate
would
to
have
that. I can really
I'm
relate
sure
to.
I would have alarmed everyone standing around me.
Yeah.
But that was an amazing experience. And I had experiences that were a little strange from time to time. Um, being aware of other pilgrims around me from other times sounds very weird. So in my mind's eye, I could see them beside me walking. or sometimes they were under me, sometimes they were walking above me. And I became very aware of being able to sense other times. And one time I think I met a very evil spirit on a mountain. It was very frightening, very, very frightening. Just out of Atapuerco. I found out later there had been a really bloody, horrible battle up there.
Yeah.
So there were so many experiences.
You know, you made me think about yesterday. So I spent the weekend volunteer at Alberg on the Portuguese Camino.
Mm.
That is like 40 kilometers from my house, and I am there almost every weekend, almost. But so I stayed there, and the Saturday was a rough day mentally, because it was really difficult, because I had 4 pilgrims. Just okay, it's no one, but these 4 pilgrims, they were really, really beautiful people and lovely people, but no one talked English or Spanish or Portuguese. So I know some French, I know some Italian. There were one Belgian guy, there were one German girl, and um, two Italians. Uh, but it's really difficult for you to sometimes to find the right word to know what you want to mean. Uh, and I had struggled mentally to find the right word just to communicate with these people. Uh, anyway, and yesterday I had six, but they were all Portuguese. Um, and at some point they went all to get dinner. So I was alone at the Albergue, and suddenly I look out for the day that it was, and I realized that yesterday it was the anniversary of my first day ever on the community. 5 years yesterday, and I suddenly get really, really emotional, and I went to the archives, and I went to look out for the days that I was there as an hospitalero, and starting to realize and remember the pilgrims that I received.
Mm,
And I don't know, that was really, really special moment.
mm,
And helped me one more time uh, to understand why I am hospitaler, why I'm volunteering.
mhm,
Um, how important it is for you to be volunteer?
mhm, mhm. Give me that question again.
How important it is for you to be volunteer at that place?
Oh, I think it's very important. Very, very important. I wanted to give something back. That was one thing. But I honestly wanted to volunteer in order to continue having the experience of the Camino. Because as a volunteer, as a hospitalero, you get to re-experience the Camino. And so in my 2 years of volunteering at Beilari, I've had amazing experiences with the pilgrims who come in there. And that, of course, is a very special place because they're just beginning, right? And they're very nervous. They have no idea. 99% of them have never done the Camino. They only have fear of that large mountain just outside the village. And so, through volunteering, I get to re-experience the Camino and experience so many lives. One evening at Beilari, I was checking in pilgrims, and I looked at the list and I realized we only have women tonight. We have no men. That's interesting. So in Beilari, you have a dinner, and Joseph, the owner, does an introduction that gets people to talking and really gets them to expose their feelings. And this group, and sometimes that really works, and sometimes it is difficult. There'll be people who just are not going to open up, and they say, what's your reason for doing the Camino? Oh, I like to walk. Or, but these women, when we got into that, just went immediately to a very deep level. I will never forget that evening. I will never forget how they opened up. And there were women who had just lost a husband. They were trying to find a new direction in their lives. There was a young woman from Poland who said, I need to learn about myself before I start my life. So I'm doing this before I go to university. And there was a woman who said, believe it or not, I work in the shipyards, and I'm the only woman, and I work with men, and it's a tough job. And I feel that I'm becoming a man, and I don't want to be a man. I want to be a woman, but I'm becoming so masculine because of my job. Well, that was an interesting thing. And the next morning, so we do breakfast for them. She comes down, she's sitting at the breakfast, I'm working in the kitchen, and I look over and I go, who is that? Which woman was that last night? I couldn't figure out which one she was. And it wasn't like there were hundreds of them, there were only 10 or 12 of them.
Yeah.
And she began talking to me as, she has changed overnight so much that I did not recognize her. And she was looking very beautiful and very womanly. And I told her, do you realize how beautiful you are this morning? And the Camino is already at work. So those are experiences that you can only have as a hospitalero. So it's very bright.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So Joseph, we are almost finishing here.
Yeah.
But one last question, and then I will ask you for a favor, a little one. What is the legacy that you pretend to leave among the Camino community?
A legacy. I don't know. Maybe a legacy of courage, a legacy of authenticity. Those would be good legacies to leave. A legacy of giving back. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's my answer. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Really, really beautiful. So now we are finishing around here, but to end with a bang, I just want you to ask if you can just leave a message for the pilgrims.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you want to say.
Okay. Well, what I would say is in embarking on the pilgrimage to Santiago, you are opening up the possibility of a totally new and powerful chapter of your life. But the Camino can only do so much. You have to do part of it. You have to come to it with an openness to see something in a new way, to experience new things, to let go of old habits, and to that, the combination is a chemical reaction of your openness and your willingness with the experiences on the Camino is a chemical reaction that can be very, very powerful. So I think that's what I would say.
So, Joseph, thank you. Thank you so much. With such a pleasure. And I really, really hope to obviously someday walking on the Camino again. Thank you so
I hope
much.
so too. I hope so too. Thank you.